Scott, are you completely aware of what today's conversation is going to be about before I go on my rant about the subject?
No, nope, not really. Not really.
Oh, see?
I'm I'm joining. I have some ideas of some slices of it, but I'm
Yeah, yeah,
joining
yeah.
kind of
No,
last second, trying to
yeah.
do my part. That's about it though. But I don't know the breadth of it, and so
Uh-huh.
I'm just tapping in for a minute.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, which is why I wanted to ask because I didn't want to catch you off guard.
Sure. Yeah.
So, so here is what we're planning on talking about today. And Rock 8 brought it to my attention maybe early last week because Rock has really been on a tear in terms of marketing and making that a super high priority, right? Because in my opinion, Scott, and you can agree or disagree because you're in the profession, so you've probably forgotten more than I know. But in my mind, when I think about like the success of a lot of products and services, it really hinges on marketing because you've got to create brand awareness. And it's even more critical in a small space like cryptocurrency because if it's done properly, supported by the right analytics, you can turn a crypto into $1 billion market cap if done properly with the right strategy, motivation, and community behind it. So today's topic was really to go in detail about what you guys are planning on doing in terms of creating this drip marketing DAO, and then maybe get into some specifics on, maybe some tactics, what we can do as a community, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's the context in which we're going to talk about tonight, just to give you a little bit of a flavor.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
Right
Good.
on, my friend.
Good
Right
to
on.
know.
Right on. Cool. All right, so let's do this. So let's back up. Hey, I appreciate you guys hanging in there. We're about 15 minutes tardy. Technical issues. It doesn't happen. I can't remember the last time it happened, but it does. And we'll continue to try to get Rock Ape on here and all the other speakers. But if this is your first time on, I want to say welcome. Every Wednesday, we host Twitter Spaces specifically about Drip Network and the Animal Farm. And my name is Kryptonite, aka Drip to Wealth. And I tell you this, we cover every single subject. And personally, that's important to me because, in my opinion, part of it is nurturing and guiding our community to help build trust and then eventually help you guys create wealth. And the only having a conversation. And that's what I like about Twitter Spaces is that we allow our community to actually tap in. We get to hear their voices and they get to tell us about what's going on in their life, what their strategy is, what their insights are, what questions they have. And as a community, we can talk about those things so that we can bond a bit closer and build this trust that then we can support the drip ecosystem, which eventually will turn into a big bag of money for a lot of us. All right. So here's what we're planning on doing, because Scott is the only one right now, but I'm going to help him out. And I know LD's got some thoughts on it as well. We're going to get into a conversation, what I consider to be probably one of the top 5 elements for the success of any cryptocurrency. And the order is up to you, but it definitely includes a dev, a community, tokenomics, utility, and this magical word called marketing. So we're going to get into that today. All right. So Scott, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you know the backstory. I'll try to get Rock in here one more time. Drip Marketing DAO. What's the backstory behind this collection of people wanting to do something like this? Is there a backstory that we're unaware of?
I don't know if there's any real big backstory. I think it's just we're aware that a lot of people in the community have these skill sets. Some people are good graphic designers. Some people can, do code, write code. Some people are marketers in their day-to-day profession and all that. So as we spend a lot of time, especially as content creators, we spend a lot of time describing what's happening, what needs to happen, what we would change if we could. So we're pretty well versed in this. I think we can all agree that there's a marketing element of it, specifically on the drip side, that's been non-existent from almost the beginning, outside of a
Mm-hmm.
small little round of advertising and marketing that was done on Forex's dime way back in the beginning, like first 3 months of drip, which most of us weren't there for, myself included. So
Yeah.
we realize that there's just a piece missing. There's an incentive missing for Forex, in my opinion. It's just not. He's got this new shiny toy in Animal Farm. It's something he actually makes money on if it does really well. It's not gate kept, so it's like, it's the favorite child for him, and I get why. So it's really up to the community to try to figure out how to fill the gaps when there is stuff, and keep everything afloat. So, in my eyes, there's kind of Forex is still in charge. If drip's drowning, it's kind of up to us to throw it as many life rafts as we can. That's not going to keep it afloat forever, because eventually Forex has to pull up with the big boat and take everybody out of the water. But with stuff
Right.
as his sign off, like a layer two that he's really backed and he's okay with, and it's going on the official site. Because all these offshoot projects are great, but they're just they're life rafts to try to plug the holes in the ship, get more utility out there, or whatever. So they certainly help, but it's not gonna be as effective as you putting a full layer two on with additional utility or whatever. So anyway, I say that to say this: I think this was probably started up by Drip Coach, and
Okay.
he started to kind of bring some people together that knew about marketing, whatever. Kind of started to just get some opinions. Hey, what are your thoughts about this? Is this getting done the right way? And I think once that stuff's been aired out, at least from my side, he was just like, let's round a few of you guys up. Would you be interested in joining this drip marketing DAO? And then we can start to just talk about how we'd attack this. So brought us all together into a group. And then we've just been going back and forth and discussing different ways that we would attack things. And we all have kind of different point of views. Some of us would do it a specific way, some of us not. As we start to drill down into the granular sections of it, we realize that we probably are all pretty much on the same page, which is helpful. And most of what that is just omitting things from the list. Really, what it comes down to is a minimum viable product. What can we do that's really easy and simple and most effective? Because we pretty much have no budget, right? We're just kind of putting our own money in here. Might sell some NFTs to help generate some capital, but this is just us trying to bootstrap this thing to get it off the ground to really help. So we're trying to figure out, hey, what's that minimum viable product that really we can transition? What's our avatar? What's our customer look like? So if we're going out to try to get people to bring people over into the garden, who does that person look like? What's the average person in the garden area of the world? Are they 18 to 25? Are they 35 to 45? So we're trying to narrow down with some different polls and a handful of things to try to figure out income brackets and all that, because while we don't have the budget to cast a wide net, but you can't assume who your avatar is. It's a big time marketing mistake.
Scott, I know that's a soundbar moment, man. That's a soundbar. So anytime somebody drops what I consider a gem, we go to the soundbar, because I don't want it to go unnoticed, right? Here's where people make a lot of mistakes, and we can get into this. This is why it's going to be a really good, meaty conversation. A lot of people do throw out like this broad net, and they're thinking, I've got an audience of maybe 10 million people, and if I just get 1% of them, that would be plenty. No.
Yeah.
You need maybe 100,000 people and get 20% of that, because you're speaking to a very specific niche. Like, you've got to identify your audience first. It's probably less than 1 million people in my example, but you'll get a much bigger market share because it is your specific audience. And I think maybe that's where we've missed the opportunity, but I think it's because, to your point earlier, Drip really hasn't had a marketing budget, so nobody really focused on it. So people are throwing out the broader nets to kind of figure out what sticks. And then you use the data to back into it.
These people, they're not marketers, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So what they're looking at is, you're looking at and saying, like, Yeah, drips for everybody. Drips for the 60-year-old lady who wants to supplement her income. Drips for the 16-year-old kid that's just getting into crypto. And the truth
Right.
is, it is. But when you're
Yes.
marketing, you can't assume that everyone's your customer. It's a terrible way
Correct.
to do it and a really good way to lose a bunch of money on marketing spend and just a terrible way to convert. The fact is if you want to access those people, you have to make separate content for 50 to 60-year-olds, separate content for 20 to 30. Like it's got to be you got to be speaking to a different audience in every aspect you do it in. And if we had a big budget of a couple $100,000, we could go hard at it and access all those points. Problem is when you're bootstrapping it, you don't have you're going to burn a lot of ad spend on the way to find even who your avatar is, and then you got to scale and multiply and then try some other things.
Yeah.
So that's just the stage we're in, where we think we've dialed it down to a specific area of the platform, a specific generalized age range. It's a pretty big gap. Some specific interests, right? Like I don't think in this environment we're converting barely anyone.
I agree,
Less than
Scott.
1% of the people that we are converting doesn't already have a MetaMask.
Yeah.
So we're converting people that are already interested in crypto, already likely have a MetaMask. We're just trying to get them across the finish line. So that really slims down. It's not for grandma who's never heard of crypto. It's not for even a 30-year-old who hasn't experimented with having a MetaMask or a Rabby or whatever it is. So we've got a real slim audience. We also have a really limited budget, and for those of the people who don't know, everything's on almost every advertising in the world, metric in the world and area, it's on a bid system. So if you want to advertise in California in the US, you're going to be paying a higher rate. There's some areas, there's some times a day that aren't quite as expensive to advertise. So you're just paying for these advertising slots, right? No different than primetime television. You want to be on primetime television when everyone's eyes on it, you're going to pay a lot. If you want to advertise at 2:00 in the morning on, some obscure channel, you're going to pay a lot less. So it's not really any different than that. It's all based on a bid system, including where you advertise in the world. So we've selected a sector in the world that is non-US, where the advertising would be much less expensive. But there's a balancing act there too, because while you get into areas that I guess are not as affluent, you're going to spend less to convert, but you're also going to get less incoming dollars that come into the protocol, which is also a factor. So and we gotta basically measure metrics. So initially out the gate, you kind of got to go, okay. It's definitely important to convert wallets. So new wallets added to the protocol, if we can add those up, we could go, okay, that's a decent success rate. But it only tells a real small portion of the story, because while we want wallets, what we really need is dollars, right? So if one wallet comes in with $1 million, that's highly successful. If 100 wallets come in with $10 a piece, it's not as successful when you consider the offset ad spend.
Yeah.
So what we're basically doing is just we're all kind of have marketing minds. So we're dialing it down to what we can do with the least amount and what's going to be the most effective, what's not going to hurt the ecosystem, in that if we need to sell a bunch of drip to pay for the ad spend, that's not ideal. So we've tried to orchestrate it in a way that it'll make it work. And I've got some more details on exactly how we're going to do that, but I don't know if I feel comfortable sharing them unless I get like the thumbs up from Rock Ape or Drip Coach.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I'm actually going to try to keep sending these guys that. So let's do this until maybe I can work them into the conversation. Because you're right, I definitely wanted the 3-headed monster on today, and if we got to back into it on a different day to get them on there, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
So let me do this, because you said a lot, Scott, man, and again, I'm telling you, I don't want any of this to fly over people's head. So can I back you up a step?
Yeah.
We know, like, brand awareness. Like, if I think about brand awareness, in my mind, simply put, is to get more people to buy more of your product or service over a longer period of time. Right, that's brand awareness in my mind. I'm just going to dumb it down, and part of that is really understanding who your audience is. So to your point, I don't know if we've quite figured out who our audience is specifically for drip, as an example, right? Because we're talking about a drip marketing DAO. Like, if you were to guess, who do you think the audience is for the Drip Network?
it's a pretty wide avatar. So, there really is a lot of people that are the customer. You just have to market them to them in different ways. For instance,
Yeah,
when we look at my analytics for my channel, that 35 to 55 range are the people that watch me the most.
got
If
it.
you look at Crypto King's channel, Crypto King's audience is much younger. So it
Ah,
doesn't mean
okay.
that he's not converting, but his message converts with that age range better. My message converts with the older crowd a little bit better.
Yeah,
And so when we, in the back end, we're in some groups together, we share our analytics and stuff like that and kind of mess with each other, see who's winning. But yeah, that's part of it, is depending on the mouthpiece, you're going to convert a different type of person. No different than, hey, if it's a great female YouTuber, they're just going to get more females to watch them because they can identify with them. And then,
yeah.
oh, hey, if Drip's working for her, it could work for me because I'm just like her. So you tend to gravitate toward the people who sort of think like you, or whatever.
Even
So
look like you to some
yeah,
degree.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah. So
absolutely.
that's natural.
Hmm.
And
Plus, the
so the
age
age
range
range,
feels about right. Like plus or
yeah,
minus 10 years in either direction also feels about right too. You know?
yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
think if we can get, there's so much opportunity in Drip, and I wish that some of us could pull the levers as far as getting the UI done, getting some other things done, because it's just hard to send. It's hard to send an old timer to a site that looks like it was just, the super old school, like the General Drip site. They want to
yeah,
feel, they want to feel like if they just jumped off Charles Schwab and they're jumping over here, it's not that much of a transition. You're just explaining, hey, over here you're doing it with US dollars, over here you're going to do it with BNB. And now that they understand that enough to make the transition. If you take them out to a completely different looking world, a different sounding world, it operates completely different. It's just too many hurdles to get someone's mind over, and they'd rather wait and sit on the sidelines. And then
yeah,
they'll get in when Drip's $150 and had been going up for 6 months straight. You know what I mean? They're going to wait until the proof is there. So it's a double-edged sword now, because we've let the Drip price go down so far that in order to really grab any of these people's attention, we need a trend reversal in the chart, and to see
yeah,
that start
yeah,
climbing. Look at it for the last month and go, oh, this is on a serious rebound. As soon as
yeah,
that happens, like when Triple D launches, we'll see that, and then we'll have a lot easier ability to market. So I
yeah.
would say, who our avatar is it's still a pretty wide net, so we
Hmm.
advertise to them different. But yeah, it's probably anywhere from 25 to 55. Somewhere roughly in that range is probably the core component. More males than females, probably a 80-20 split.
Yeah,
Uh, it's generally speaking, I think the thing about Drip is for the most part, the income brackets are lower. I think a lot of people are looking to generate some income from this, so they can move into the animal farm or whatever it is. So I think income brackets aren't on the high end; they're on the middle class, lower middle class is probably the general. There's obviously a lot of exceptions. There's definitely some big whales that have come in and gone hard, but in many cases, a lot of folks are like, making it, but not feeling like they're not investing, and then if they need to retire, they're going to have to keep working or whatever. I think for a lot of those folks, they sit in that bucket and they go, okay, maybe drip is an avenue to help me out of that hole.
yeah. I totally agree there. And that's what's really cool about it. That's why, to your point, it's so important because, in my opinion, Scott, there's probably a lot more of those people, right? If you think about the statistics around income and the fact that so many people are a couple of paychecks from going bankrupt. And I read something that was kind of staggering, which was they said maybe 43% of Americans can cover up to $1,000 of an emergency.
Yeah.
43. So to your point, there's probably a much broader group of people that if they were made aware of the opportunity within the Drip network, it will be something they'll be interested in. And then from there, once we get them in, then it's the nurturing and then the converting eventually. But all of that has to do with the utility that's on the horizon. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this, Scott, because here's what I just want to get this one out the way, so that there's no confusion. But I love the idea behind it. When we say something like the Drip Marketing DAO, some may think that that is something issued by like the dev and the team. So Forex Shark and Ray, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would say, I don't think this has been commissioned by either one of those guys. And I just want to be clear on that point, which is totally fine, because what we're really saying is, we've said this many times before, is that Drip is a community-driven product.
Yep.
And everyone should have every right to market and support based on their passion, desire, and skill set. And as long as it supports and doesn't hurt the ecosystem, you should be allowed to do that. So I just want to be clear, right? That it's not commissioned by either one of those guys. You are simply taking the initiative, you, Rock, and Coach, to drive marketing as a priority for our ecosystem.
Correct. So this is not sanctioned by Forex or the official team or Ray. And, you know, we don't want it to be necessarily, because that comes with additional red tape. We're seeing that kind of with DDD. Granted, you know, to Forex's point, like, there's some things that needed to get fixed, so it would have got launched before those were fixed. To the other, you know, to the teams and the DAO that put it together, to their point, Josh and everybody, you know, something's better than nothing. So it's kind of a split between. In our case, there's not really this isn't like anything going up on an official site or like an offshoot. This is just driving eyes. So for us, like, we don't have that same issue as they do. Like, in a lot of cases, like for instance, Triple D, like, it was a good idea to try to get Forex's blessing because they want to integrate it. They want it to be like the full layer 2, you know, which is what ended up is going to happen. So in our case, we're not adding anything. It's not our own protocol. We're not, you know, any of that type of stuff. We're driving more eyes into the system, and we're going to use, you know, any referral bonuses or anything like that to just pump back in to utilize as the ad spend. So hopefully we can get the conversions good enough to where we're just breaking even and constantly growing the system. You know, if we make Drip, we'll burn Drip. We've got some ideas on how to do that. I won't share the sauce quite yet because it's not fully baked, but that's the idea. So yeah, it's not an official team thing. It's just, you know, a couple outside parties, you know, just a few of us who are going to get together, put our marketing minds together, and see what we can do. Like, if we had a budget, we could do a lot, but since we have pretty much no budget, we're just we're going to see if we can piece this thing together, drive a little bit of traffic, prove a proof of concept that it's stuff will work, and then we'll start to scale. And if it works great, it'll be fantastic for all of us because we'll all make money because we all have drip bags.
Right.
And, you know, and if it doesn't, we'll learn a lot along the way.
Man, soundbar. Come on, man. Soundbar. Look, Scott, I love the aspect that it is not officially commissioned, right? Not saying that anyone is going rogue. I just keep saying, man, if we're going to consider ourselves the best community in DeFi, and clearly that is subjective as hell, but if we're saying that's who we are, then what does that really translate into? And that means people have to get involved. You have to leverage your strengths, both professionally, artistically, financially, whatever your strength is, find a way to get involved. And that means driving community specific projects without the blessing from the team up above. And again, no one's going rogue. We're just putting our brick in. So I love that aspect. And here's the other piece, without me being long-winded. We can move so much faster if we don't have to cut through all that red tape. That's all I'm saying. We can move so much faster. You know what I mean? So much faster.
That's the name of the game. Yep.
So much faster. Drip Coach, I just want to make sure you can hear me because I've been trying to get Rock on and somehow you popped on. Drip Coach, can you hear me?
I think Rock's on too.
Yes, sir. Can hear you loud and clear. I was in the middle of a run, so I didn't want to have that breathing in the background.
Welcome back, brother. I appreciate it. You are always working out, my friend. That's love.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, Scott, for holding down the fort.
All right, so let's do this because again, Scott, man, I could tell you live and breathe marketing because there's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to mention.